Welcome back to the Balance Bully podcast for ambitious women in business and a few brave men. I'm your host, Naketa Ren Thigpen, always excited to be back in the building with you. What? All right. Deep breath, everybody, because we are about to turn everything up. I have a really good friend, a fantastic soul, a spiritually minded leader who is doing incredible things in this world. And she showed up to show out just for you with a real talk conversation. I have to welcome my good friend, Keshia Butler-Thomas. She is an adjunct professor at Temple University, helping these young people get in alignment with where they are taking their already natural brilliance so they can be socially apt as well in the marketing space. And she happens to also be a founder and CEO of LCK Consulting Services, where she is helping everything from online marketing, digital brand strategy, right down to social media marketing while you're on trend. So not just the outdated, okay, we need a few images, put up your brand voice quotes. She's going above and beyond in the most digestible and palpable way possible to make sure that the businesses and brands that she and her company works with can go to the next level. Keshia is all about elevation. So of course, she was coming to the BBP to have a conversation with us on how she's creating work, life, and love in her life with her bae, her forever lover, and making sure she has plenty of room for all of her clients. Keshia, welcome to the BBP. How are you today?
Oh, Naketa, I'm so excited to be here with you, my good girlfriend. I have been a long fan of the Balance Bully podcast, so I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank you so much for having me. I'm feeling amazing. I always am this week. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I'm in a good mood. And I'm ready to talk this with you.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so grateful that you've been a long time listener of the show and very integrated into all things balancing as long as it's bold. So you have a lot going on in your life, both personally and professionally, all good things, great things. And with great things, there comes the reality of good stress, right? Like you just hosted Gay Pride weekend, I think, or weekday. I'm a little thrown off because I don't come to nothing. I'm never available for nothing. So I have to figure out what's going on in the world of my friends over tea. But we haven't had tea for like a month now. So tell me what's going on with you.
Yeah, so I did. I had the pleasure of hosting the Collingswood Pop-Up Pride. So I live in Collingswood, New Jersey. I'm very involved in my town. And I am blessed to have an amazing employee who's a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. And so for me, it's so important to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. Yeah. And I believe that allyship is holistic. Mm-hmm. And so when Collingswood asked me to host, I was more than excited to do so. So that was this past weekend. Yes. And we do have tons of stuff going on. LCK moved into our brick and mortar location a little over a month ago. At this point, our brand continues to expand. We recently as last week, went from servicing companies in 8 countries to 9 countries. Nice. So we bought on our 9th country. Yes. Really excited about that. Such a blessing. And then, of course, I am all the way married to my forever love, my husband, Lavelle, who is absolutely amazing. I'm also a dog mother, so, Diamond gets all of her attention. And then a professor at Temple University. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things.
Yeah, a lot of things.
That are going on.
Absolutely. And you skipped over a few of your board and committee meeting opportunities and, all of the obligations, all of it. I'm not mad, but yes. I do remember reading, it was probably just a few kicks back, that you and Lavelle were voted power couple of your county. Am I correct?
We were, yes. So we were blessed to be on the cover, actually, of Collingswood Living in February of 2022.
Nice.
That's what we're in, right? The pandemic has me backed up.
Yes.
But yes, 2022. And that was a real honor because I tend to do so much in the career space that my husband is very much a part of it, very much. But he's also a silent part of it.
Yeah.
And so to be able to share that with him was really special.
Yeah. Now, I relate personally. Dean, my husband, is 49% owner of all things Thick Pro. And he was like, but I don't work for you. Okay. Like, I own pieces of that. I will support you all day long. He definitely shows up, owning the creative end of what we do and directing. No, I don't like that. Tell that designer to do that differently. Like all of those good places. But he does not necessarily sit in the vision with me to walk this out with working with power couples like yourself, married women, entrepreneurs and leaders. He's like, I have my own dream. Thank you. But I'm here for you, babe. And that adds a different spin when they have their own thing and you don't get to necessarily control all the pieces of that. So how is it working for you and Lavelle these days? You have your own office outside of your lovely home. So he has to deal with a little bit of travel from you now and all of it. How is he managing?
So that was actually a really important piece for us and a really important piece for me to be able to balance.
Yeah.
Right. So my home, especially through the pandemic, became work and home. And it became very difficult as the business was growing for me to detach from work, Keshia, and become Keshia the wife, Keshia the dog mother. Like I was really losing myself in work. And so my husband used to travel for work. He works for Amtrak. And so he used to be on the road. And so he'd be gone sometimes 2, 3, 4 days at a time out of every week working. And so recently as February of 2022, February 2022 was a good month for us. But as recently as
love month. Okay, y'all had a lot going on.
That's also our anniversary month, all the things. But he got a promotion. And so when he got his promotion, that took him off the road. And he's now home every day at some point, like a normal person. And so when that happens, immediately I recognize the need to create work-life balance, not just for me, but for him as well. And so I wanted our home to now be a space where when he comes home, he's away from that and he's in a place of peace, and I'm creating that peace for him. And so I made the decision when we found out he got the promotion to begin looking for a brick and mortar space to be able to purify our home space. And so I did that. And actually, it's really not that far. Like my office is literally a 3-minute drive from my house up the street. But it was exactly what was needed for me to be able to show up in each aspect of my life fully, because I wasn't showing up fully for my husband. And I totally admit that, because it was so easy to just jump out of the bed, run into the office, get stuff done, versus now I actually pause and think about it.
No, I love that. And I love your vulnerability and your honesty with it, because it's not as easy as people think. I was just having a conversation with someone else. It was in reverse. I was a guest on her show. And as we were talking on air, recorded, when she left corporate and became an entrepreneur, she was like, oh, this will be easy, love, hugs, happiness, private jet planes, all the things. And then obviously the reality of what goes into being an entrepreneur, especially, and I know you yourself also come from corporate, when you're used to having teams or departments that you can delegate, or maybe it's the red tape and it's part of the frustration, but there's someone else handling something that's technically, even if it's slowing the part of what you have to do down a little bit, it's their problem. And you just kind of waiting for that next step. But as an entrepreneur, you're creating all the steps, all the pieces, all the SOPs, and doing the team management, the people management, the delivery of services, and puppeteering all those parts. So everything in your business not only plays nice for you, but so your clients can get the best piece of you.
Absolutely. That is so real. Right. And honestly, I encounter a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm ready to be an entrepreneur. And I don't necessarily ask them about the money aspect or any of that. I ask them about their ability to emotionally detach.
Come on.
Because I am so emotionally attached to my company. It's my baby, right? Like I brought this thing into the world. I nurture this thing. I feed this thing. I mean, all of it, right? And so to be able to emotionally detach from that is the most difficult part. It's not the financing. You can find that. It's not the people you can hire. It's you personally being able to remove yourself. And I struggled with that for a very long time because I was, an entrepreneur for many, many years. But for those, you follow me on Instagram, my very first business card ever, my grandmother had in her things. We were cleaning out her things. And that business card is 15, 16 years old. So with that being said, I've born a lot of babies, a lot of business babies. And so it's always been very difficult. But when your priorities shift, you have to figure out how to do that. And I often say, I have a lot of titles, right? Yeah. Professor, CEO, TV host, all these things, right? But my number one title is being Lavelle's wife. And I had to figure out how to not just say that,
right,
but mean that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm really honored by the reality of you sharing that those pieces that flow really well together now didn't necessarily always flow together. And some of those pieces were missing because you didn't even know that they needed to be there, let alone in an appropriate order. And I respect that, especially as a woman. You read Selfish. You already know that you know the dirt. Okay. Cause I put it all out on the table. For those of you who ain't read it, go get it. That's all I'm gonna say right there. It's my whole life in 190 pages. And it was not easy. It was the opposite of easy. The reality is there were simple things that I needed to do to organize it, but simple isn't easy when it matters to you how those things are put together with care, with love. Heck, I can't even get my husband to eat a meal if he thinks I didn't make it with love. He's like, you came down all aggressive. I don't want them sweet potatoes. Like, that's anger in them potatoes. I don't want that in my organs, right? Like, I'm going to eat the sandwich instead.
Yeah, it's real. It's real though. And I think that is the beginning part to figuring out how to balance, right? Is being able to boldly confront yourself.
Yes.
Right. And to be able to have those bold, courageous conversations with yourself when you are not being your best, when you are not showing up, being able to recognize that and also being able to take that feedback from your partner.
That's right.
Right. My husband had to give me feedback and I had to receive that in respect and love and not just receive it, but process it and make changes.
Yeah. The challenge for that for so many women is that we're women. Right? So we know so much. We've been through a lot emotionally. We contextualize things in a very different way than men do. So when they're actually right, a lot of us have a hard time receiving the rightness because we're so used to having, dare I say, a one-up on the version of where they're trying to go and really understanding so we can synthesize it better for them than they can do for themselves. Listen, honey. I had more than a fair share of moments when my husband would look at me like, you just don't want to listen. And I'm like, I am listening. You're not understanding what I'm trying to say. And he's like, yeah, you're trying to tell me what I mean and how I feel. And that's not the reality. I need you to receive this so we can grow together. If that wasn't the sexiest, most annoying combination ever, to receive it. And I know you know what I mean because I see it in your face. Absolutely.
Listen, my husband's favorite thing to say is, I don't need you to hear me. I need you to change your behavior.
Yes, Lavelle. I like it. He's like, I need you to more than just hear this. Change the behavior so we can get to something different, something new, something better, which is ultimately what you're doing with a lot of your clients. They're used to doing things in a certain way that work for them up into a point, up until it doesn't work for them. And now they're hiring you for you to audit and give feedback that it doesn't stop there because now they have to implement it. And I know you well enough to know that you're like me. I don't want clients for clients' sakes. I don't want to just say, oh, my portfolio is XYZ big and covers this much territory. I want to know my clients are actually implementing, and they may have to modify it for their situation, which is fine. It's the private clients get the modification done with them. But if they're in an incubator or cohort or other programs, like I know you have as well, where it's more group based, you're still giving them all the juicy tools. But the ones that aren't necessarily able to stay consistent in the marathon are the ones that keep questioning your questions instead of questioning their questions and seeing, are they in the way of their own progress with implementing these changes, especially considering that you're not just teaching quote unquote traditional social media marketing, digital strategy. You're also aggregating what's on trend so that they can take advantage of all those algorithms. Are you seeing a lot of those challenges with your clients as well, with how they're balancing the new information, the new way of being, the new way of doing in their business?
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things is social media moves so quickly that I could have a conversation with a client today, and the next time we meet, may that be in a week, 2 weeks, or the following month, that information is different.
Yeah.
And that can be very frustrating when you are trying to learn and grow at the same time. And so more so than anything, our job is to really facilitate information as it comes and help with the pivots along the way, because there are a lot of pivots. And that's not just with my clients, that's with my students as well. I'll start off the semester teaching one thing, but by the time we get to the end, I have to retract some statements and move some things around, because that's just the reality of social media.
Yeah.
For a business, though, if you've been in business for a while and you do things from a traditional business sense, social media can be the most aggravating portion of your business, because typical business 101, which you and I know, is you create your business plan, you follow your plan from A to Z, you see growth. Unfortunately, with social media, there's no A to Z. Sometimes you have to go from A to M, and then from M to Q, and then from Q to B, and then from B to O. I mean, it's unfortunately, that's the world that we live in. And so there's a lot of frustration there in clients, and typically why they hire us. As a digital brand strategy firm, we help create not one, not two, but multiple plans that already encompass pivots, right? So that way, when you go to your playbook, as we call it, you have multiple ways to be able to attack social media. So that way you don't feel like once you were given a plan, it didn't work, now what? Right. You simply go back to the playbook and figure out which of those new plays works best for where you are now.
I love it. That is a mic drop moment. It's literally built into the flexibility of it's guaranteed to be needed. And that takes a little frustration away as well when you're walking in, whether this is your work, your life, or your love, when you know that life is going to give you one constant, which is change. Life is always going to throw you some kind of change. But if you prepare as much as you can prepare, which is really just having a mindset of open-mindedness and flexibility, that is probably 50% of the battle. Because when you're really rigid, which is a form of trauma, and that's a whole different conversation, when you're super rigid and super fixated and focused, the biggest problem you have isn't accepting the change, is getting you to move, to make room for the change. And what you're encouraging your clients and those that are following you to do is be prepared for it. Know that it's coming. And how about we gave you a playbook, giving you some insight into what some of those changes, because a lot of them just recycle themselves on a different platform. The same challenge LinkedIn had with growth, TikTok is now having, and so on and so forth. And it looks a little bit different. It's colored with a little bit of phrase and stripes, but it's still closed. One way or another, it still has to go on. And I know that you as a teacher, the teacher in you is always 5 steps ahead and making sure that you can break things down in a digestible way so it's not overwhelming for those who have more of a creative mind and they can't deal with algorithms and technology and the gremlins that come along.
Yes.
Especially the type A engineering tech minds that actually they know tech really well and they're really good with problem solving, but social media incorporates a creative side that maybe they haven't opened themselves up. And you're really blending the two of those extremely well.
It really is a marriage, right? Between creativity and data, which is a marriage that we have not seen before. And so in a way, it's uncharted waters. And part of the reason why even, governments around the world can't figure out how to properly regulate it, because this marriage is so new. Yeah. And by time you learn the dance moves for the first dance, you're on to the mother-daughter dance, right? And then from there, you're on to the son and mother dance, right? I mean, it just constantly is moving. And throughout the marriage, it's necessary to be armed and dangerous with enough of both sides, right? Enough creativity to where you can pivot in that space, and enough of a type A tech mind to where you are open enough to learn a new piece of technology.
Yes. 3 snaps. I love it so much. Okay. So we talked about the data science meets creative marriage and what you're helping, you're guiding, you're midwifing your clients through in so many ways, right? And we also talked about how you and Lavelle, your forever lover, as a power couple, have navigated some terrain that you didn't know you were going to have to navigate. But once you did, you fully committed to the process because your priority as wife mattered more to you than anything else. So my next question that I ask all of my favorite guests is, how do you give yourself permission to pause? Just you for you.
It's funny. So I know that you asked this question and I gave this some thought. And for me, it's always rooted in my faith. Yeah. So as a Christian woman, I get up every morning at 5:00 in the morning and I read the word. I actually read the entire Bible in 1 year in 2021. So I'm recycling at this point, but I believe you get something different every time you pick it up.
Yes, you do.
I get up, I do that. From there, in the wintertime, I do yoga. Now that the summer is back, beginning on June 20th, I will start going to the pool every morning at 6:00 in the morning and I do laps. That is my time. Yeah. That is the time where I sit with me. I have the conversations with me that I need to have. I'm able to regroup and to think and to have some of my best ideas because I quiet all the noise around me and prioritize myself. I have to say, though, admittedly, it took me a very long time to get there. Yeah. Because I was so hyper-focused on success. And what success looked like to me was a certain amount of money in the bank, the house. I mean, this is what it looked like to me because that's what I was trained to believe. Yep. But once I allowed myself to unlearn what society says success looks like, that's when I was able to step into giving myself the permission to pause. And I began implementing my morning pauses at the end of 2020. And they have continued to the point where now the dog knows, don't come out the room. My husband will not make a noise because they know that is my time. That's when I am doing all the things I need to do for me.
Yeah, which makes you a much more fun person to be around when they do come out the room. I can imagine him now. Your husband is a really tall dude, and I can imagine him like, is it safe now? Like, is it okay now?
Well, most times he sleeps through it. Unless he's headed to work. And now with his new job, he's out of the house by about 4:45. Oh. So I'm then getting up and having my time.
Oh, yeah. So you have not lots of energetic spaciousness, not having to be a little bit more quiet for him while he's resting and all of that. Poor Diamond, though. She's like, oh, Mom, come on already. You're 5 minutes late. Get finished. Hurry up.
She knows the deal. She is very much understanding of mommy's time. And you know, she's typically asleep during the time too, but you know, she gets it, but I have to have that. And I notice just how much more successful on my own terms.
Yes.
I am by having that.
1,000%. There's a mentor and advisor in my ecosystem. I'm going to misquote a little bit, so I'm paraphrasing, but she says something like, you have to unlearn in order to expand. And that's exactly what you're talking about. You were unlearning some things so you could expand not only business and empire and lifestyle, but you and all the things that you were willing to not just embrace, but to make room for the creation of the reality that you absolutely, hands down, are doing very well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I love Keshia so much. So tell everyone how they can connect with you.
So I am everywhere in the world pretty much as Keshia Butler-Thomas. So on all social channels, I'm Keshia Butler-Thomas with the exception of Twitter because of their character limitations. So I'm Keshia B. Thomas on Twitter. You can visit us directly on the web at www.lckconsultingservices.com. You can also come into the office. All the information is there if you'd like to schedule some time to do that. And I'm super open. So you can email, you can slide in my DMs. It's not weird. People do it all the time. I live on social. But get in contact with me if you need to have a conversation about digital brand strategy, social media marketing, what's on trend. I am happy to do that for you.
Oh, you are such a breath of fresh air and great energy, Keshia. Thank you for carving out time out of your really robust and full schedule. Thank your husband for letting you have this extra time at the end of your day, because I know he's like, babe, date night. Come on, let's go. Let's get it. Let's get it. So really, truly, we thank you here at the BBP.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you and spend this time with you. It's just always amazing when we get together.
Yes, it is. And now we're going to move on to the offline conversation. So, BBP listeners, thank you so much for always showing up. I know that you are multitasking, Peloton, riding, walking your dogs, playing with the kitten, all the things that you're doing. And I just appreciate that you tuned in for us. But I have to ask you a favor, as I always do. I need you to make sure that you share this with someone in your ecosystem who can benefit from everything Keshia Butler-Thomas just shared just now. If they are an entrepreneur, you already know they need it. If they're an exec working in a high-level firm and you're not sure, she works with brands too, boo. So make sure you share for just in case. But most importantly, press repeat on this episode so you can hear what she was sharing about her own personal transformation and the awareness of self that was needed to even recognize that there were some pieces out of place that had to be reorganized. So that is my last ask, except in truth, I always want you to enjoy the balance of your day, but remember, do it boldly.